Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The panel session will begin in 10 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The program will begin in 5 minutes. At this time, please move to your seats and help us to start on schedule. As a reminder, please silence your electronic devices and leave them on so you can text or email your questions for our guest speakers to the address on the screen. askmetna@gmail.com. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Brigadier General Paul Fredenberg, Executive Vice President for National Security and Defense, AFCEA International.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. All right. If you had a big lunch, you're not going to get any sleep in this room today. There's a lot to discuss here. Hey, thanks for joining the Senior Enlisted panel today. This is an important discussion, and this is where the rubber meets the road. We've been talking a lot about a lot of concepts, but this is the team right here that's going to have the discussion on the leadership and the training and readying the force to meet this continuous transformation as we integrate the operational concepts and these new capabilities into our Army. And it's my pleasure to introduce the moderator of today's panel, Command Sergeant Major Michael Sterrett, Command Sergeant Major of the U.S. Army Cyber Center of Excellence. A native of Dallas, Command Sergeant Major Sterrett has served in every enlisted leadership position from team lead up to Command Sergeant Major. And he is deployed on multiple combat tours and most recently served as the Command Sergeant Major for the 7th Signal Command Theater. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome for Command Sergeant Major Sterrett and his entire panel.
Hey, good afternoon, team. Thanks for being here. Hey, first of all, I think we could have got some bigger chairs so my feet could dangle a little further. Hey, again, thanks for being here. I want to first start off by thanking AFCEA for giving us the opportunity to come here and speak with the team today. What a great opportunity and with a great panel that we've got up here, a wealth of knowledge that exceeds probably 100 years of service combined. Quite frankly, I'm a little intimidated with the handsome fellows that are up here and all the intelligence that they're about to display. We are going to keep with the theme that you have all heard throughout the TechNet, a data-centric Army of 2030 and beyond. We're going to be talking initiatives and challenges that come with that modernization of our Army in preparation for large-scale combat operations in multi-domain environment. And so before we get started, though, I'm going to ask our panel members to introduce themselves to you.
All right, so I'm Command Sergeant Major Linwood Barrett, the regimental CSM for the Signal Corps. Been in the Army for about 27, 28 years. I kind of lose track because I'm getting old. Totally committed to making sure you get the best trained soldiers out of the Signal Corps, out of the Signal School, and that they're able to go and provide what the warfighter needs. And I'm happy to be here to join these great Americans on this stage today for all the discussion.
All right, I'm Command Sergeant Major Jerry Dodson from the Maneuver Center of Excellence. At Fort Moore, we've focused on training all the infantry and armor soldiers that come into the Army, but we also have all the NCOA for infantry and armor as well. So all NCOs, regardless, will funnel back through Fort Moore to receive their professional development, and we also have IBOLIC, ABOLIC, MCCC, so all the officers and junior officers will also come back through Fort Moore. So it's a great opportunity to spend today up here talking to these gentlemen as we look at like how can we implement some of this new technology into our NCO and officer professional development. But we also focus on all the modernization for the brigade and below, or the tactical level. So we got a lot of projects we're working on right now to get pushed back out to the field.
All right, I'm Command Sergeant Major Kraus. I am your 17 Career Management Field Corps Sergeant Major. So if it's cyber, electromagnetic warfare effects, I'm the senior enlisted rep for that. All things from training, operations. It's my pleasure to represent your force for that aspect. I look forward to enjoying this panel today with everyone. Thanks.
Cool. I'm Command Sergeant Major Jack Nichols, Army Cyber. First and foremost, I want to say thanks for everybody that made it out here, the industry partners, the teammates, as well as the leads that are out here, and a bunch of mentors that I see. So really appreciate your time to come be part of this. The other piece is, as the Army Cyber CSM, responsible for the worldwide global reach of communications platforms and networks. Under Army Cyber, we have the NetCom, Network Command out of Fort Huachuca, which supports many of the brigades and theaters. We also have the DCO, OCO functions from the 780th MI Brigade and the Cyber Protection Brigade located here at Fort Gordon as well as at Meade, doing fantastic things in the network and defending those networks daily. Those persons are in contact 24/7, and we get a lot of training from my teammates on this side of the house, and as well as kind of looking from the G6 support. So also thanks to Sergeant Major Knott for everything they're doing there to help us out with what we're doing with Army Cyber. But I look forward to conversation.
Sergeant Major Richard Knott, Army G6. I'll tell you, thanks again, everyone, for everything that you do. We couldn't do this by ourselves without FCA and everyone, all of our industry partners out there are helping us. And of course, as you heard General Morrison over the past couple of days just talk, everything is about unified networks. So that's unified requirements, unified services. We're just we're centralizing the services, and we're just trying to do what we can do just to make us, the regiment, the Army, just better. All right, and we look forward to the conversation. Oh, I just want to start by saying this. I know Sergeant Major Sterrett is going to get us started, but this is going to be a conversation, right? So there's going to be some things that we are going to ask for some assistance from the audience to, if you know something, say something, right? So I think that as the questions come up together, we probably can come up with answers or solutions or how we're going to get after some things, all right?
All right, thanks, team. All right, so let's get to it. So the Army, as you've all heard over the past couple of days, has been involved in the COIN fight, counterinsurgency fight, for the past couple of decades. And so now we're in the process of figuring out how we're going to man, equip, and train our service members in preparation for large-scale combat with a near-peer adversary. And so in doing that, there are going to be some challenges, some impacts. And so I'm going to start off with Sergeant Major Barrett and ask, what are the impacts or changes that you anticipate the evolution, the modernization of our Army affecting the Signal Corps?
So initially we got to, we've talked about it all week. We talk about it all the time. We got to change the way we fight. Me and Sergeant Major Krause just had a conversation as it relates to the spectrum world. Here at the Signal School, I make sure that 25 Echoes are, we got to relook what we're teaching them based off the lessons learned from the Ukraine and Russia conflict. But I don't think that we jumped the gun. I think we did take a deliberate step in how we get after it and make sure that we're prepared to remain at the cutting edge of the fight when it comes to electronic warfare, and that's where me and Sergeant Major Krause are going to have to do a lot of collaboration to make sure we cover both gaps from the cyber perspective and the signal perspective at the schoolhouse.
Okay, and you mentioned electromagnetic spectrum, and so with that, I want to have a follow-up question to Sergeant Major Krause. Do you see in the future a line of tasks, of common core tasks, that will need to be trained across all the COEs, or at least a majority of the COEs?
Right, that's pretty good. So as you look at what we're doing already for cyber, we already integrate training every day across the force. Some of it gets a little overwhelming as annually we go through that same exercise of cybersecurity awareness. But as we've watched over the last year or so what's going on in the world, we realize that the electromagnetic spectrum is a critical environment for the future force. And we're going to have to figure out a way to inculcate the foundations of the EMS. And that's really looking at electromagnetic support, electromagnetic protect, and electromagnetic attack throughout our organization. So we started with a partnership with the Maneuver Center, looking at bullet and captain career courses on how we bring material that can introduce to every soldier the concepts of what they need to consider while doing their operations. What do they look like? What kind of emissions are coming from their organizations as they maneuver, as they prepare to maneuver, as they sit in just day-to-day operations? What can the enemy do to impact that? And then what should they be doing about that? So absolutely, we're going to have to figure out, as we watch what's going on, in order to institutionalize in the beginning and then federate that, right? So institution is just one place, getting it into operational environments at our national training centers, and then looking at some of that self-development piece to make sure we cover all the aspects. But really, EMS and focusing on ES, right? That sensing and then protect and attack are going to be critical.
Okay.
So I think we also go back to that, the conversation of we can't fight the same way we're used to fighting. And I think, our soldiers right now, we're in this room talking through this, but we got to get the messaging right for them, right? So we got it. There's no more Taj Mahal talks. We got that because of the missions and the digital signature, what we wanted to get reduced. But we got to make sure they know that, because when we tell them to have the segregated comms or the distributed comms packages, they are going to ask us, what does that look like and why we're doing it? So I think we started the schoolhouse from both of us to kind of educate them on that. And as they get out to the field, the non-commissioned officers corps takes it from there. But we do got to start at the baseline level, because right now we're making these decisions, we're moving forward. But our PFC specialist sergeant needs to know that we're doing this for a reason. And it's because if we fight the way we've been fighting, we're going to run into some problems. And we need to adjust like time now.
If I could add to that, so, I'm the dinosaur up on the stage here. I've been in for 30 plus years. So as, but come back in the day when I was a young rat rig operator, it was kind of like you keyed the mic and you hurried up and keyed the mic. You didn't spend a lot of time on the mic, right? But that's changed over the years. We got into the coin operations where the lieutenants and, sergeants key up the mic and kind of stay on the mic. The biggest piece to that is you got to understand what the spectrum looks like to the organizations that are out there now. We do broadcast quite a bit. If you want your email, well, guess what? That's a satellite dish that's up, receiving and transmitting all the time. Mm-hmm. And this goes back to how do you get persons to understand those vulnerabilities? Blue Force trackers, all those things are transmitting at one point in place and time, right? So it's the training and getting back to kind of what we always used to call the basics. But it's understanding what you look like when you're in training, but also more so understanding what it looks like when you're in a contested, congested environment. How do you hide in that now? So it's, again, what's the change? If I'm transmitting, how do I look like I'm not doing something in the same spectrum as the adversary?
Yeah, it's a great example of moving from that coin, like we talked about, into LISCO and support MDO, right? We got comfortable doing things in coin that we can't do that, right? We have to figure out a better way to move forward. As leaders, we owe it to our soldiers. We owe it to the nation to do a better job at considering what is our footprint and how are we going to maneuver to conduct those operations to protect ourselves and our nation's assets.
And there are some electromagnetic warfare planning tools in development currently as we speak. And I think they should be going out in FY 25-26 to the SEMA cells and the S6s and the G6s. So I think we're on the right path. We just got to continue to communicate, collaborate, and get after it and make sure that everybody's got the shared understanding of what we're trying to get after. So that's my last comment.
Sergeant Major Dotson, on that same thread, it's been said that we won't have EMS dominance in large-scale combat with the near peer. What are your thoughts on are there any additional training that you think that you'll have to interject, just your perception from the maneuverous ground?
Well, much like the other sergeant majors already stated, we've identified some of those issues. 20 years of coin, and it's not just the new soldiers coming in. We have a lot of our junior or mid-grade NCOs, for example, that's all they know, and so it's breaking those habits. It's easier with a junior soldier because they only know what you teach them. But somebody who's been doing it for 15 years, sometimes those are habits that, hard to break. So what we've done is we're taking a look at all of our training courses at Fort Moore, and the focus is LISCO. And some of the lessons learned, like you mentioned, that we're seeing overseas, and then just incorporating it, much like one of y'all mentioned, getting on the radio and talking for 5 minutes and having a conversation, trying to get leaders to go back to using brevity, or codes, or just so we're not leaving that signature. So we are slowly implementing it, looking at changing POIs to get on board. And as mentioned, we're working with Sergeant Major Cross and his team in the officer side of the house, but we're looking to expand that and push that back into our ALC and SLC as well.
Okay. All right. So Already, there's been changes to the Signal Corps, Cyber, and EW as we move towards the Army 2030. Some examples of that are the converged MOSs for the Signal Corps, the growth of the Cyber Corps with just 2 MOSs to really kind of minimize the number of MOSs, creating some efficiency and kind of flexibility for our service members for the Army for their assignments and positions. As information technology and the Army cyber systems become more increasingly advanced, and personnel and new technical expertise is going to be required for those advances. Things like zero trust, cloud computing, software-defined networks. And so with that, how do we balance modernizing the formation with ensuring that we still maintain technical experts across the field?
So it's education, right? So we're still fighters. So the signaler is still a soldier at hand. So we do need to hit that, and then we need to make sure that when the new technologies come out, we're going to slightly be behind, but we got to keep kind of pushing forward with that. Whether it's MOS, additional training, whether it's relooking our POIs, whether it's the training developers going out there to the national training centers and bringing that back. I think we just got to continue to assess and identify what needs to change with the training to make sure that when they get to where they're going, they're at least fundamentally sound enough and educated too they can fall in onto that system. And I know we do those boards every 4 years. I think we're going to look at doing them more frequently. But as we go out and we visit camps, posts, and stations, we do get a lot of feedback from the commanders on ground of what's not happening. And then we can utilize the RSTSs, we can utilize things at the signal school, and we can utilize each other to kind of relook and kind of identify what are the critical tasks that our soldiers need before they graduate and get them there before they report to their station.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. So General Stanton said, I think on Monday, he repeated it yesterday, that yes, we went from 17 to 7 MOSs. Was that right? We don't know yet, right? We don't know yet. So there is the ability to reintroduce some other MOSs, especially as we get into zero trust, get into data, things like that, things that we really don't even know what we want to teach. Right? And then we're going to use opportunities like Sergeant Major Barrett just said, like RSTSs, to get after some of these things, right? So we're going to, over the next couple years, if not by the end of next fiscal year, we are going to try to centrally fund RSTSs, right? And we're going to do an entire overhaul of RSTSs. We're going to put in RSTSs what we believe we need in those, and that's going to come from you guys. It's going to come from the commanders in the field, right? So whether it's data, zero trust, things like that, already at the schools, right? They are getting after zero trust data at the warrant officer and at the officer level. We are going to introduce the enlisted in that. We just got to see where they fit. We know that we are behind. I think the country is behind as it relates to data and zero trust. But I think there are some things coming that's going to catch us up or make us number one.
I think just to add to that, it goes back to the instruction, right? So we've got the NCOs, they're going to get out there, they're going to get at this stuff, but kind of a forum like this kind of empowers us with the opportunity to reach out to industry for some of this. Yeah. As we look at network, training and fielding, it's the, soldiers PCS, and then, with the training that they've got was good at one point because we gave them this brand new equipment and they trained and then they PCS. But then the equipment resides in those formations still, and then the soldiers have to be trained up on that stuff. The schoolhouse, in my opinion, isn't going to be able to keep up with that all the time. So it goes back to kind of, how do we get that training support from, sometimes industry, if it's a person teaching a dish, if it's teaching the software, the application. That's sometimes where we need some assistance, and I think with the RSTSs, it's great to have some persons out there, but we don't always have the equipment to support the training, and I think that's where, kind of a forum like this, kind of from industry side of the house, where can you help out?
Yeah, so and I think that's where the communication with industry, with PEO comes into play, because we do need to get equipment. So if we're going into fielding, we need to ensure that we get at least some touches here at the schoolhouse, right? And then if and when possible, we need to get some equipment at the RSTSs as well, right? And that's just so, because we really don't know when a station, camp, post near you is going to get something, right? But what we don't want to happen is soldiers get there with no equipment or don't know how to use the equipment. So I think if we get this RSTS thing right, we might be able to get some training there at your installation near you right as well.
Yeah, and so in regards to the data literacy, because I know that's where we're putting a lot of energy and effort into that currently. In the future, the PMEs will have an introduction for our non-commissioned officers with data literacy and an SLC, and we're still kind of working on what that exactly looks like, but it is on the table, and it will be in the SLC, which we're going to roll out FY25, I believe. So
at all levels of PME?
yes.
Okay.
Hey, Sergeant Major, could you, I mean, I think we were kind of talking RSTSs. I don't think everybody really knows what that is. You know, it's the regional training sites that we have throughout the corps and divisions.
So
Yeah. Jumping back on the RSTS, because that's a big deal, right? So the signal school gives you a foundational, basic signal soldier. I like to call it the signal factory. We roll them in, we roll them out. We do want to make sure that we emphasize that when they get to their camp, post, or station, we are expecting our non-commissioned officer. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but just because everybody's in here and I'm feeling the heat, we looking at each other. We do expect our non-commissioned officers corps to take them and make sure they get the reps and sets on the equipment that's at that organization that they need to be ready. We're going to give you the basic model, and then we need the non-commissioned officers corps to put the rims and tinted windows on it, is what I'm trying to say.
And that's because there's just so much time that can be introduced in PME and training. And so next question is kind of a two-part question. Do we think that there are any MOSs specific for signal that are going to stay just the technical track and not be converged in any way? And then second part of that is, do we anticipate any challenges as we continue to modernize the force for the future fight?
I mean, so I don't see any merging of the 25 Delta or the 25 Echo at this current time and state. I think those are the two MOSs that kind of have their own separate technical track. I know at the end of the day, to the far right of this thing, we're looking to produce a multi-purpose signaleer that no matter where you go, you can perform all the various duties. And we're just not there yet. Not sure when we're going to get there, but that's kind of where we're headed, which is why that SLC, that combined SLC, is kind of the first stab at this, because if we get our senior leaders to think strategically and be able to lead formations with multiple MOSs, then we can kind of scale that back and zero in on what's critical tasks the 25 hotels, the Bravos need to be successfully used when they go out to the formation, not paying any attention to what their specific MOS is.
So, I mean, the goal would really be MOS agnostic, right? You know, that, I mean, in a perfect world, if we had these soldiers for 3 or 4 years and we could train them up to be experts at everything. And I mean, I'm telling you, with the foundation, we're trying to get at that, right? So we do believe that there are some basic fundamentals that every signal soldier should have. Showing up to your organization day one, right? There are some things that we should be teaching them here at the Signal School. But then there are some areas that we need folks that have more expertise. And I think in those cases, it'll start here, and I keep saying this RSTS thing, right? But with the help of RSTS, we can help build in the field experts, right? Because we have to understand, and yes, we did say, once they arrive at the unit, our expectation is that those sergeants and staff sergeants and sergeant first classes pick up the training. They pick it up, right? But in some cases, technology has changed so fast that they're lacking behind as well. So we have to bring it to them. We can't bring everyone back to Fort Gordon. So we have to get the right training at the right time to the folks in the field so that they are prepared, you know, really to maintain our readiness.
And just one more thing on that, right? And just for the message of the messaging on this, right? So we are emphasizing at the Signal School teaching signal theory, so all the signal soldiers have a basic understanding of communications, not so much individualized equipment, which we're going to talk about RSTS about 10 times today. My bad. And like Sergeant Major Knott said, when they get to that camp poster station, then whatever that particular skill set that commander needs to fight his fight and conduct his wartime mission is where we can leverage that RSTS along with the non-commissioned officers corps to get them proficient on that equipment. But the signal school, signal theory, basic model. That's all I got.
I think that the thing you brought up in the question is, do we have to be more technical? And the answer to me is yes, absolutely. Yes. We have to understand the space. We have to understand our devices. We have to be able to explain how it operates, where it works. You know, talking to my battle buddy from the infantry side of the house, you know, back in the day, I was responsible for night vision goggles. I was responsible for lasers. Anything that had a battery was kind of a signal soldier's responsibility. You know, if it's JBCP systems, it's all those kind of things. How do I employ it? But was more importantly was how did I fix it, right? So if a cable broke, then it was kind of my responsibility to fix that thing too. It was looking at diagrams, wire diagrams, understanding signal flow, where's my transmission, understanding my encryption requirements. All those things were certain that a signal soldier should know. But we don't always kind of teach that. And again, it goes back to, you know, getting the NCOs trained up at these RSTSs, getting them trained up at the schoolhouse, but becoming more proficient in what we do and how we operate and how we perform in the environment. And, you know, so that the warfighter can do their mission without having to worry about comms or not working.
Not even specific to the actual signal piece or comms piece of it. You know, you brought up, you know, making sure the training is right. And then, you know, we talk about the NCOs making sure that they train their soldiers right. Technology is changing so fast, and we all know we've had to work outside of our MOSs. As a SAR major, you know, you might be in a force comm unit, you're tracking everything, and next thing you know, you're a garrison SAR major or something to that effect. You step out for a couple years, and then when you come back to force comm, you're like, what happened? I was only gone for 2 years. Well, the same applies for our NCOs. Look at the population that serves as recruiters, drill sergeants. You know, I have almost 1,100 infantry drill sergeants on Fort Moore. They come out of Force Comm for 2 years, sometimes 3 if they extend. By the time I send them back out to Force Comm, technology has changed a lot in that period. They don't know. And so when they show up and we're like, hey, you're now a platoon sergeant, we just got to make sure we have that training right. And so we're taking a look at that. Like, how do we keep them up to date? It's a very fine line on trying to balance all this.
Okay, so we talked about NCOs and the critical role that they play in, you know, train the trainer, right? We can't give them everything in PME. They're going to have to come out to their home station and get, would you say, the rims and tires put on them. With that, you know, our NCOs are the mentors, trainers, and standard bearers. But we're starting to attract, at least in the signal and cyber EW fields, those people who really just kind of want to be on the technical side. Some say there's a conflict between wanting to be a technician and a leader. So from each of your point of view, how do we as senior NCOs, as leaders, help our NCO Corps to understand the importance of leadership in conjunction with their technical expertise?
Yeah, I don't understand where there would ever be a conflict, whether you are a leader. I mean, we're soldiers first, leaders first, technicians. It's all encompassed. I mean, you know, so I think what we have to do as senior leaders is just to ensure that we continue to force folks to take the full responsibility, and that's as a leader, as a technician, right? And we just properly prepare them. So I don't see a conflict. I don't see where there should ever be a conflict. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. I think that we do have some out there who say, well, they just want to concentrate on and some might say that that's our warrant officers, right? But they too have to be leaders.
So I was about to say,
there's some aspects
our
that go with
warrant
that.
officers are leaders as well. I tell you, you know, like in our organization, right? So you have our CCWO, you have Lieutenant General Morrison, and you have myself, and we are a leadership team, right? So we are leaders, right? So I do not see.
Yeah, there's absolutely things that everybody should need to know. Even as technicians, you have to, part of the leadership strategy is being an effective communicator, right?
Right.
You have to be able to communicate your message to the person, the organization that you're supporting, in order to get across to them what it is that you need to do to bring their systems up to par.
Yeah, I just add that, as a young soldier, as a saw gunner, I wanted to remain the saw gunner the rest of my career. That was the best job ever, getting on the line and, having the automatic rifle, right? It was pretty kick butt. But the problem is that I had to get promoted and I had to move up. I had to be a squad leader. I got to be a team leader now, right? So then the issue was, I've got to understand how that saw gunner employs his weapon, how my team employs their systems, how we, use a grenadier to do that. In cyber, I see the same thing. A service member has to kind of grow. He has to kind of be able to kind of direct and, coordinate fires. And that's kind of what I try to talk to the NCOs about a lot of the time. You want to be the person that's just responsible for that one place and piece and area, but you've got to also kind of look at it from more broadly, is that now when you move up to that next level, you still have responsibilities at the lower level, the things that you really like to do, but just got to understand the bigger picture now, and that we need them in those spaces. I do have a lot of those technicians that would like to stay, in the just technician piece of it. But they also recognize, through discussion sometimes that, hey, it's you highlighted the warrant officers are still leaders. And those young soldiers who are very technical are still leaders.
Yeah, understanding the cohorts, right? We talk about understanding what it is that the soldiers wish to achieve with their service to the nation. And then understand the differences between the cohorts and their career fields, right? What is it that each cohort within our great Army is set to achieve throughout their career path? How does that align to that soldier's interests, their goals, and what they hope to invest in the Army for what we hope is a career? If we can bring that understanding to the soldiers and their families, we can better align them to meet which aspects they hope to achieve, right? If it's being the most technical professional on these type of devices where you're going to develop technical capability, training, oversight, management, and in all aspects, leadership, then maybe it's a warrant officer in your career field. Right? Maybe it's a NCO if it's a 25 Delta or 25 Echo in their career field. Right? But we have to make sure as leaders we're communicating with our soldiers and their families about their interests and their investments, so that they have that understanding of the differences between our cohorts and what each cohort is achieving. And we are the greatest nation's Army, and we're great for our NCO corps and the various cohorts, responsibilities and capabilities. Making sure we have that understanding, as leaders providing that, we become more successful, and we enable those soldiers and their families to make the best decisions for their careers, regardless of which cohort they decide to go into.
So yesterday we had a senior enlisted leader signal forum, and a question came up about certifications. What certifications or credentials best prepares our signal, cyber, and EW warriors to be prepared for operations during LISCO?
So I'm going to jump just real quick into cyber here. Certificates are great and wonderful. They give particularly industry, commercial sector, an idea of what knowledge, skills, abilities, capability an individual brings to an organization. As the Army, particularly as the schoolhouses, that's what we train for. Right? We spend a lot of time doing critical task site selection boards, developing individual critical task lists to highlight those knowledge, skills, abilities, tasks, objectives that are required of a particular MOS or military occupational specialty. We define what we expect, and then we focus on developing training to meet those needs. And we send soldiers through that training, certifying that they meet what operational forces told us their requirements in operations. A commander, a subject matter expert representing that commander comes in and informs us so that we develop what they need, not a certification. If we didn't have an education system built in that fashion, certifications would become important. Because how else can we ensure that you meet the standard we need, right? So if you've gone to one of our Army schools, I know what I expect I'm getting. If you come from the outside, or in the commercial industry, you come to an organization that you've never worked with before, they don't know what your background is, you may have done X, Y, and Z, Those industry certifications allow you to say, I have gone through and done this thing at this level. I now have this knowledge, skill, ability, experience, and exposure to be successful in your environment.
So not only making our service members better at their job for us, but also should they exit the military, ensuring they have a job opportunity going out.
Yeah, it enhances, right? Particularly if it's aligned to our career fields, because we can't spend the whole time inside of the institutional environment. And sometimes in operational environments, we don't have the ability to get after it. So those certifications become important, right? To hit those KSAs, those knowledge, skills, abilities that we can't otherwise achieve and mark an industry standard.
So
right? It helps
with
them
that
transition.
statement saying that they're important, are we looking at making some changes at DAPAM 600-25 to state those certifications and such inside that doctrine?
So hopefully most people are familiar with the COOL website. If not, please go look at COOL, C-O-O-L, Army COOL. You're going to look at the each career field and the aligned industry certifications. You'll utilize that, right? It helps you professionally develop. It helps you look at not only enhancing yourself, but what you can do with inside of operations. It aligns to promotions and advancements, the things we're looking at out of our junior and senior leaders. We spend a lot of time, our proponents, the proponent teams from each of the career management fields spend time ensuring that that stays updated at least annually, if not more often, right? We take input from subject matter experts and others in the field, and we update that on a regular basis. The same with the DAPAM 600-25. Again, NCOs, if you don't know what's in there, please take a look. That's your guidebook. That should tell you whether it's you or another enlisted member. It tells you how to think about your career and what others are thinking about your career, so you can help advise your soldiers or get an idea of where you need to go. And as far as I'm tracking, almost every CMF, career management field, has gone through and updated that within the last year. But there is a renewed emphasis on making sure we stay more up to date with that, getting into a better battle rhythm that enables us to take feedback from the force and push that back into the DAPAM. So it's Army G1 Publications.
Yeah.
Army G1 Publications, it's the new site that they have published, the DAPAM 600-25. Go look at your career field. If it's not up to date, ask your proponent to make sure it's getting there. If it's not there, please ask the proponent to provide you with what should have been submitted, and it should be updated shortly, though.
But so I'm going to let this certification conversation, right? So we had the cyber.
I was waiting on this.
I got you. I got you covered. And then the signal portion of this. I think what we are trying to discuss is, are we mandating certifications for certain things that we need to go back and relook at that for a capability? So, you know, this signaler needs to be certified on this to do this versus this signaler just needs to be trained and can do this. I think from the signal perspective, that's what we're deep diving into as we talk in regards to RSTSs again. And that's what we got to kind of facilitate and discuss with this formation right here, which was brought up yesterday, you know, talking about incentives. Okay, are we giving incentives? Are we giving certifications? Talking about retention of our signalers, where we can almost say, hey, maybe we need to relook and say, hey, we don't necessarily need you to be certified. We just need you to be trained to provide the capability. Because are we spending money on certifications just so our service members can get out? Or are we, I think we just got to relook that to make sure we're doing some justice for the Army and the soldiers. So I think two different things a little bit. You know, I know there's some certifications that our cyber teammates probably are mandated to have, but I think in the signal realm, we probably need to go back and relook that. And again, it's in 600-25 for the ones that we do require. But in regards to being trained and capable to provide a capability to an organization, what certifies a soldier to do that? The paper, the class, we just got to go back and rethink that a little bit.
Just real quick, the way I look at the certifications, it's a level of measure, right? So currently, what's the level of measure to measure a signal soldier if he's passed these certain things, right? So how do you get them on the network that they've been, they understand the OSI model or something, for instance. But we don't have that, and that's kind of the thing. I think sometimes we look at the, for like, a couple of the ones out there, Sec Plus, Net Plus. That does give you a level of measure that the service members can do these things on networks. It goes back to the vulnerabilities of those networks. As you say, in cyber, they have to go through a lot of qualifications to be certified. There is a requirement for it. Signal Corps doesn't have a lot of that right now. But it's back in the day, some of our old sergeant majors I see in here, we used to take a test.
A lot like the old SQT.
Yeah, we used to take a test back in the day, right? And it kind of measured where you were, and and your knowledge and attributes, right? And how well you trained. It was a level of measure.
As against our individual critical task lists, like our job books that we used to have. So we are working towards getting back into the job books. You will see a big push across the Army as SMA Grinston now retired and SMA Weimer coming in. We'll see a focus on ensuring that our individual critical tasks at skill level get integrated into Vantage and DTMS so that we can use our job books as NCOs go in and hold our soldiers accountable, and we can advocate for, here's what you need to do, here's how well you did, and then here's how you're doing, and then in alignment with the organization. It gives us a digital way to push that towards individual to collective training. But that's where we get back to, is it a certificate or is it what we expect, those individual critical tasks of a soldier to accomplish, and how are we tracking that mechanism and ensuring that a commander can rely on us as NCOs to say that we have trained, certified, and prepared these teams to do what the commander requires.
Cool. So, here at Fort Gordon, the Army has and continues to invest into Fort Gordon in our modernization efforts. Over 138 projects at about $4.2 billion over the next 9 years. As such, they're doing new state-of-the-art, building us new state-of-the-art facilities, new equipment's being fielded, along with the structural modernizations that we've already talked about. New concepts are being taught in the signal and cyber soldier fields. How can we ensure that we're adapting our leadership development, technical expertise, and learning approaches to keep up with the evolving technical field?
So I'll jump in on this one if it's all right real quick. Again, we're looking at, we're new, so we do a lot of experimenting. And this is challenging, right? Cyber and electromagnetic warfare, constantly changing environment. There's a lot of pressure to keep up with what's going on. And because we're just growing, that means the generating force is small because we're just barely trying to get what we need into operations, right? Make sure we can get out there and do the things we need to do. Where is our subject matter expertise? Although we reside a few at the schoolhouse, most of it is in operations. Well, if you look at the things that we have to accomplish and to stay on pace, on path of what is going on with our organizations and our partners in our fields, how do we tap into that expertise? How do we ensure that we have relevance to what we're training, it's meeting the operational needs, and it's adjustable as we progress so rapidly? One of those aspects that we're looking at experimenting with is adjunct faculty models. We look at how the evolution of education has occurred. These institutes tap into subject matter experts through adjunct faculty programs. Why couldn't we? If the subject matter experts are out there and they have relevance and can help us with the next generation, why couldn't we look at a system that empowers operations to provide support at a point of need with the right subject matter expert to then inspire and teach our next generation? So we're looking at some partnerships, Reserve and Guard, because they become a little more complex. If we could do that with Reserve and Guard, we could do that with active duty. How do we get adjuncts into the schoolhouse? How do we make sure that they meet the Army requirements to teach and have the understanding of the course material and then bring that relevance? The other piece of that is then, How do they understand what we're teaching? How do they have the oversight, operational oversight of the institutional course material that meets a program of instruction? And if there are adjustments that don't require significant resources, how can they stay tapped in to make recommendations on changes so that they can be evaluated and approved by a Commandant for Change? One of the programs we're utilizing is courseware as code. Right? So if you've utilized some type of code, software development, code repository, you're able to see and work on material all at the same time. And so we offer this for operational subject matter experts to have access, controlled oversight access to course curriculum so that they can offer updates for review and approval so that we can make changes rather than waiting a year, 2 years, 3 years. We can start to adapt inside of the cycles.
Sounded pretty good.
It goes back to like how do we help out with Fort Gordon and what we got going on. There's also looking for industry and working with academia, going out to the schools and talking to the service members and talking to students to make some service members at some point. But we also look at the civilian workforce. How do we bring them on board? Having these state-of-the-art facilities kind of aligns with kind of bringing this more technical person on board. Versus kind of what we had in the past and kind of these older buildings that we've had. You can say, hey, we're going to do all these great things and we're going to put you in, the motor pool General Stanton and I had back in the day. But the deal is that it was what we were growing toward. And then, 5 to 6 years later, we got the state-of-the-art facility that we're working in. So all those things kind of change. But the other thing goes back to is kind of what I hear a lot, and this is what I get a lot of, helping out from the schoolhouses, is that there's a lot of service members that want to come in. There's a lot of kids. I get a lot of parents that call me to say, hey, my daughter would like to be cyber. They would like to be in the Signal Corps. They want to learn these technical skills. And sometimes we have the, it's getting out and talking to the recruiters and working with the MEP stations to how do we bring them into the cyber career field. We talk about a lot of the things that we offer them, the opportunities within cyber. It is the certifications in many aspects. It's the courses that they're going to do with highly trained, why they become so valuable over a period of time. But it's also the piece of, kind of looking at what we're doing for the education side of the house, tying in with Augusta University, that as they go through the courses, they're also getting, college credits as they complete the courses. So those are a lot of the things that kind of have been added to kind of what we're building with the, the direction that, Fort Gordon, soon to be Fort Eisenhower is going toward. And I think that that's kind of what I'd ask everybody to kind of just tell people about what we're doing down here. And we look forward to hiring them on.
Yeah, and so just to add on to a little bit of what you said, Jack, is so you'll hear General Stanton talk about it quite often, and that says we've got to start way earlier to build signal and cyber warriors. And so that's something that we are doing. We're working with the University of Augusta, but in building a curriculum, and also partnering with the Columbia County, specifically Greenbrier Schools, elementary, middle school, and high school. And it really kind of builds on itself, starting with K through 12th grade, teaching them cyber and signal field, growing our own, if you will, if not just for us, then for industry. So that's something we're doing out of the Cyber Center of Excellence.
And that's a good tie right there, too, because if I look around as I walk the floor, there's a whole bunch of battle buddies hanging out there doing great things in industry. And it's based on a lot of the education and training that they received while they were in the military doing what we're doing right now. Mm-hmm. And a lot of our soldiers, we look at the first cohort of cyber soldiers, the first 6 years is just about done. Some of them are staying, some of them are kind of moving on, and that's okay. I just need to continue to build more. And that's what the schoolhouse helps us out quite a bit. But once again, state-of-the-art facilities support that. And I look forward to kind of where we're going toward 2030 as several more facilities be built.
And to save my boss a lot of emails, I'm going to add there, we're starting with Columbia County, and we intend to propagate that across, get a thumbs up there, across further out than just Columbia County. Yeah. Hey, so I'm going to ask one last question. Quite frankly, I expected Sergeant Major Nichols to talk quite a bit more.
Sergeant Major Krause took over.
And then we'll get to the audience's questions. So last question is, first a statement. Many of us here on the panel and out in the audience are products of what the opportunities that the Army brings to all of us. So with regard to retention, what are each of you doing to make sure we're getting after retention and bringing folks in for the future Army?
Well, I'll tell you, right? So I think I told the crowd yesterday, I was a recruiter over 20 years ago, and I don't think that I've ever left recruiting, right? So if I'm in a grocery store, if I'm at a restaurant, if I'm at the airport, right, I'm talking to everyone. You know, I'm talking to grandparents, I'm talking to parents, sisters, brothers, I'm talking to everyone. And some of them just don't know, right? So I believe that it's my responsibility to inform everyone about the great opportunity they have to serve this nation. I will tell you, we are the greatest nation in the world, and it's because of folks like the folks that you see here on stage, the folks that's out there, and the folks that we're ensuring has the knowledge, leadership, training at we say we're starting at K, right? K through 12, right? To come serve this great nation. I am confident that in the future, we will continue to be in good hands, but without each one of you out there doing your part, right, to tell the Army story, really our world's, our nation's story, you know, we have to get there, and it's, you know, through folks like you helping us to get that way.
That's great. Individual and organizational engagement, right? Having those strategies and understanding that it's one personal, that we get after this, and we make sure that that next generation is able to enjoy this nation and what it provides as much as we do. But the organizational outreach. So the nice thing is we have a very small team, but an amazing team from the proponent, and then great partners with Army Cyber, be able to connect with outreach programs that enables USAREC to get hold of subject matter experts from our cyber electromagnetic warfare fields so that they can go to these different organizations and events that are occurring across the nation and provide their stories and demonstrate the opportunities, not just to serve, but to help themselves and their families. We've had a phenomenal feedback, and in fact, with partnerships with USAREC and our cyber have discovered better ways to get after informing and enabling the community. And then growing our presence, so developing pamphlets that allow people to have that better understanding of what it is that we do and what we offer in those opportunities. So being able to demonstrate their service compared to what it would be in a civilian career and how they could apply that not only by coming into service, but then as they transition for Soldier for Life, what they can be doing. And then, of course, some new media documents that we're working on as well. So we've appreciated the partnerships, both in operations and the generating force, to help us get better at reaching to the community to tell our stories. But it's important, and it's not just the organizational, but it's these individuals that are helping us be so successful. So thank you.
So, you know, our next big event is on 5 November, where the MCOE is working with the Atlanta Falcons. We're doing an event up there in conjunction with TRADOC, Call to Service. You know, they've requested upwards of 1,000 people to like re-enlist or join the Army on the field during the game. You know, it's events like that, trying to just to get that exposure. But in addition to that, you know, we've traveled throughout Georgia and Alabama. We've done 8 separate Meet Your Army events, large-scale things, just to try to get, you know, answer those questions, like you said, you know, just. And then most recently, we tied in with the Regional Boys and Girls Club. It's a great opportunity. I went and spoke at an event with about 250, you know, teenagers. You know, it's great because a lot of those kids that are involved in those type of organizations are, I mean, honestly, they're one bad decision away from, you know, taking the wrong path in life. And so being able to have that conversation with them, you know, and point them in the right direction, we've seen the benefits of that, and it's been very well received. So, you know, we are definitely doing our best to help out U.S. Army Recruiting Command.
So I'll tell you, at the Signal School, we're kind of, I believe in just waving the war flag on retention and recruiting by orange, blue, green, doesn't matter. We'll go down to the schoolhouse, talk to the soldiers about the soldier referral program. Still waiting for someone to get promoted so we can highlight that, make them understand the importance of why we need them to come in, and just to be frank with you, ask them why their battle buddies are not joining, and kind of shoot that up to USAREC. We can participate in the STEM events. We go to the local recruiting commands and kind of show our support to the recruiters who are out there fighting the good fight for recruiting, and just make it to where, like, if you're in, you want to stay in, and if you're not in, you want to get in, and if you don't want to do both, you want to be a DA civilian, whatever you got to do, just join the team. I would have had my orange socks on today if I'd have known I was going to be taking pictures, but I just believe in you got to make people want to believe and be proud of what they're doing. And I think when you talk to the young men and women, they're watching us, but they don't know that we're all the way in. But when you go out there and you have a conversation with them, that makes them want to be a part of a bigger thing. And we're all here to defend our nation. We're here to fight our country's wars. And those young men and women, they're the ones that's going to do it, because most of us are going to probably be retired in a couple of years. So we gotta have that conversation with them. And one of the things that stands out to me is when I was talking to a 25 Bravo not too long ago, they know this and they're ready to do it. So I think we got to use them, because they're the ones that's going to be able to call back home to get their brothers and sisters and their battle buddies to join, along with us talking to the preachers, the teachers, the local influencers, and the local community. But we got to go out there and take this hill and charge it to let them know that we're all in, and they need to know that we're all in. And you only do that by talking to them and looking them in the eyes. So that's what we're doing at Signal School.
Now, I always tell my story, right? Because it was I came from Panama, naturalized citizen and everything else, and had all these great opportunities within the service to do what we're doing today. But the other thing was that I also realized that, as I'm talking to some of these soldiers, some a little older than them. So what we tend to do is bring a lot of young kids along with us that, understand. They just came in the Army. These young soldiers are doing great things, and they talk to those persons that they might, relate a little bit better to. I'm going to throw a plug in there for Miss Marilyn Brown, who reaches out to a lot of our universities, as we're talking about with the schoolhouse. She goes out there and, reaches out to the students that are in the classes. Some of them may be finished with school. Some of them may not, but we offer them opportunities. And we tell them that all the time. Is, you're not going to come in. You don't have to be in the military, but we need you as a government service sometimes. We can get you on board and, come and give us the 3 to 5 years, the best times of your life. Come in and do some military service, government service, and just kind of doing something for the nation for a while. And it entices many people. But, again, sometimes they just don't know what they don't know. So if we get out there and have the conversations with them and go into the universities and having them also reaching out to us too. We just went out to Alabama, and one of the universities saw General Barrett speaking and came to ask, hey, how can we get involved with you? But it's good. I mean, a lot of the things we talk about with STEM and what we're doing in the Signal Corps, I mean, a lot of those things, like I said, you're getting a lot of training, and there's a lot of opportunities after life in the military. So, it is, working with recruiters. Sergeant Major Sterrett and I recently went out and meeting the local recruiters, who's out there doing what they're doing. And, it's the appreciation to them as well. As you did it, and some people, think you were a recruiter, is that, go out there and meet them. Because these guys are the ones getting out there working long hours in locations that sometimes don't have a lot of persons that are interested. A lot of times don't have persons that have been in locations that really have much military background, because most of us probably had somebody that we knew or a friend that was in the service. And some of these locations, some of the kids we spoke to recently, they didn't have that. But it was, again, it's that conversation, where can we help? So what we did ask them to do is kind of, hey, can we take some of the kit that we're using? If it's a medical kit, if it's a communications platform, can we help you out by, displaying that at one of your recruiting events? And that's kind of something that we've been working with the CCOE as well as Army Cyber. How do we do this? With the cyber soldiers, can't really take a lot of their kit out, but we can take something out to kind of describe what they're doing, and you find a lot of interest in those work roles.
Yeah, and just to add to it, you heard a few of the things that our cyber school and Signal School are doing. That's within our organization, but we as a headquarters are also getting out there and do many things. You already heard about the STEM thing that we're doing with the school district K through 12. But we also, visit local sporting events and talk and do recruiting opportunities there. We visit the young folks and talk to them at things such as the Patriot Challenge here in Augusta. So a lot of great things that's going on. You see the importance of it. We sat down with a group of about 30 or 40 sergeants major yesterday and expressed the importance of recruitment and always talking it. we, at every opportunity, talk about recruitment and the importance of talking about it, because last number I got, 15,000 short on last year's recruiting target. 15,000, a division of troops. Going to LISCO, we can't afford that. So it's a very important topic. We propagate that across the sergeants major, across the Army. Every time I talk to a sergeant major in my mentoring group of about 17, I make sure that they are propagating it across their formations. So as you can see, it's something that we're all serious about, and we're getting after it. And with that, I will open it to the floor's questions.
Is there anything you think that the other centers of excellence can or should be doing to help our new or future NCOs be prepared for a data-centric Army?
So I'm going to say this. I think one thing that can take place, and I think we've talked about it here recently, is getting all of the CCOE senior enlisted leadership in the same place at the same time to talk about that. Because what I don't think is happening is, I know what he's doing because he's here. Yeah. I know what he's doing now because he just told me, but I don't know what the other ones are doing. And when we start talking about data-centric, my initial thought is here. I'll tell you that. I'm not thinking about too much of what some of my teammates are doing, even though I probably should. And I think we're talking about coming together to kind of share some TTPs or some thought processes. One, so we can educate them on what we think they need to know, and one, so they can educate us on what they think we need to provide them. Even when we're talking about the electronic warfare, collective training. Yeah, I believe we need to do that at this point because it's such a big deal. Is it happening right this second? I don't think it is, but I know we need to work on it. And I only know that because we're talking to our combat arms battle buddies out there saying, hey, this is a thing. We're going to have the dispersed CPs. We're not going to have the Taj Mahals anymore. So how are you guys going to provide us the comms packages to support the warfighting functions? Okay, let's sit down and have a conversation. What exactly do you need? And then we come back and brief it up to the boss to get a blessing on them saying, hey, this is what it looks like. And this is kind of where we're going, but we can only do that if we collaborate, and I think that's something that we're looking at doing in the very near future as a formal collaboration versus the informal collaboration.
Excuse me, Mr. NORAD, I think you spoke on this a little bit the other day.
Yeah, so the one thing that I would add is that in the old skill board, I think it's called procedure now, there's a lot of data training that you can do out there. And in fact, I don't remember the folder's name right now, but if you can get with me, I'll give it to you. We've got about 12 courses already set aside in a folder that you can go, and it will give you a baseline of what you need to know in order to become data literate. So, again, can't remember the folder right now, but you just get with me, or we can get you that, all right?
Yeah, just to add to that, we had a conference on Monday, and my boss was asked that question, or something similar to that. And the answer was that we are in discussion with the Mission Command Center of Excellence in developing kind of a list, if you will, of those things that all the COEs can get after as a common core set of tools. And so we're committed to that. I took a good note on that and already tasked it out to our G3 to get it to our Signal School and Cyber School to help us to come up with that list and get that moving. But that's forthcoming.
I think that just to add is yes, the answer is yes, everyone should know this. Kind of goes back to what I was talking about, if it has a battery, it transmits, it does something. Every one of those centers have something that they're operating and utilizing that does some form of data or transmission. So the answer is to be more data-centric, is that yes, they have to be trained in kind of what's going on. And if the schoolhouse is providing something like that, it'd be something that I think is really critical to share with those other CCOEs or COEs.
Good question.
That was a great
Good afternoon, Sergeant Major. So, more for Sergeant Major Dodson in reference to something more specific with data. So, as a infantryman and what we've seen across the force, we see a lot of infantrymen that were identified issues. They're like, hey, this would be an awesome fix, and they would make a fix, find an application, make something easy. We see that in smaller organizations. We see that now with the Army Software Factory. Now with the Corps building the data warfare team of data warfare companies, if you will, do you think that that information or that's being advertised to non-signal combat arms the combat arms population, and saying that, hey, there is an opportunity to be able to go and join or find some way to be a part of the Army Software Factory or be a part of their core data warfare teams?
I would tell you, not to its fullest extent. I don't believe so. We absolutely could do better on that. You know, oftentimes we get sidetracked with other things, and we, as the maneuver force, rely on, you know, especially when we start looking at cyber, EW, and things like that, we rely on the SMEs, or what we consider the SMEs, and we just don't put a lot of focus on that. So we could absolutely do better.
So there is a process, though, and the Army Software Factory, they have a good recruiting plan out there. The advertisement is there. The window is open for all MOSs, all branches, you know, to really to join that organization, right? So I think that it is advertised pretty good, and if it's not, I'll make sure that you guys get the link. Sergeant Major Quintero saying that it's not, right? So I'll make sure that all of us get this link so that you will know where to point your soldiers to.
Okay, I just got the hook. We are taking our final question.
Well, that
One in
was
the back.
final question.
Actually, oh, go ahead.
Also, just a question in regards to NCOPDS. As it's been mentioned a couple times in regards to expectations of the mid-grade NCOs and junior non-commissioned officers to be able to pick up and then steer and point the training for the soldiers as they come out of training. Is there going to be more implementation towards NCOPDS as far as AOC and SOC in terms of operations and like utilization or placement of themselves within warfighter functions, so that they have a better understanding concerning to how to support the soldiers, as well as assess the training that happens at the minimum?
I didn't hear any of that.
Yeah, so I mean that's something that we can definitely go back and re-look. So I think there's an assumption that when these guys and gals or these are non-commissioned officers graduate the PME, they do have a certain level of proficiency at those tasks. I know from our seat right now, we're kind of making sure that as the new SLC comes online, that's kind of where they get the totally foundationally sound at the strategic level to lead all the different formations. I don't know how hard we hit that in ALC. I'll have to get with Mr. Norrat, Sergeant Major Neves, to see exactly what that block of instruction looks like. But I think in regards to that, I think the thought process is that our non-commissioned officers at whatever camp, post, or station are capable to grab that soldier and get him trained and proficient on that equipment. And if they're lacking, then that's where we kind of leverage the RSTSs. And I know we've talked about RSTSs 1,000 times today, but I think we're really looking at how we can leverage the RSTSs to help with some of our gaps and our training deficiencies, whether it's the non-commissioned officer or what the soldier lacks when he leaves AIT. I'll get with you offline and take a closer, hard look at it, and then if it's not in there, we'll get it in there.
Yeah, and just to add to that, it's already kind of built into the way we run things now, at least in the PME side. So we have a natural rotation of our instructors that come in to instruct the various levels of PME. And so with that rotation, we're bringing them from the operational force. And we have people who write the POI that go into those courses and talk to those new instructors coming freshly out of the operational force and add that and make adjustments to the POI as necessary.
That was our final question for the panel. Please welcome Paul Fredenberg back to the stage.
You
Give everybody a wait.
All right, well, I'll tell you what, that was a lot. There's a lot going on in our Army. But I'm confident with the leadership up on the stage, we're going to meet every challenge that comes forward to our Army. So thank you very much for this great discussion about how we're managing through and building a better, more capable, data-centric force that is the way of the future. Thank you, Command Sergeant Major Sterrett and the entire panel. In lieu of a speaker gift, we are going to provide a donation on each of your behalfs to the Fort Gordon Historical Museum Society. So thank you very much. So this is important stuff, the conversation that we just had up here. And if you want to help keep up your professional development, your education, your networking, if you're a professional in cyber, IT, communications, and intelligence, and you want to reach out and grab some mentorship and stay abreast of the latest technology, join AFCEA. Go downstairs, booth 123, and get engaged. We are here to be an extension of your command, of your force, but that's why we exist, to help to develop, maintain, and network across the professions of IT, cyber, communications, and intelligence. So thank you very much. And we're going to take a break, and we're going to be right back in here for a session with the new Army CIO, Leo Garciga. It's going to begin at 1:30. We'll see you back here in just shortly. All right. Hey, thank you, Sergeant.